Roaming within Rainbow Six Siege can be extremely beneficial to you and your team. It could help stall the enemy's time and potentially get you a quick kill or two. But how do you properly roam to be able to get kills in stall time? Well, don't worry, I have you covered. Roaming is actually a lot more simple than you think. There's two types of roamers within Rainbow Six Siege. You have the person who's really sneaky and crouch walks around the map or sits in corners. Then you have the person who's a big disturbance and makes a lot of noise and shows a lot of presence. Now you might be thinking, as a roamer, you'd want to be the first type who's sneaky and crouch walks everywhere. But you'd be wrong. You actually want to be the second type of roamer, who's a big disturbance and shows a lot of presence. This is because this type of roamer stalls a lot of time. Think about it. When you go to push into a building, but then you see a guy holding the room you want to push into, that puts a lot of pressure onto you. Now, instead of getting to the bomb site, you have to find a way to fight this guy in the room or enter the building in a completely different area, which in return stalls time. The more of the enemy's time you waste, the better, because it means they're too busy being distracted by you, which means they have less time to attack the bomb site. Not to mention, if you're just sneaking around the map, the attackers could be hitting the bomb site and you don't even know. Then your whole team gets killed and you're the last alive. That, compared to showing your presence within a certain area that you know the attackers want control of, is the big difference between a good roamer and a bad roamer. But how do you know where a good area to roam is? Well, let's take the basement bomb site on Clubhouse and use that as a good example. Most teams like to get control of the kitchen and the bar because there's hatches up there that they could use to get into the bomb site. You could use this knowledge to your advantage and set up in either the kitchen or the bar, and that's where you'll roam. Your goal is to stall as much time as possible, then return to the bomb site. You could even take it a step further and play above the kitchen or the bar by making vertical holes in the floor so the enemies are scared to push in and take the gunfight with you above. This forces them to either have to go up top and clear you out or try attacking the bomb site from somewhere else, which in return wastes so much time. Having map knowledge is a key to being able to do this. You need to know where the attackers like to typically attack from on every bomb site on every map. This way you'll know where to roam, like within my example, roaming in kitchen or bar when the bomb site is in the basement of Clubhouse. I only know to hold the kitchen and bar because of my map knowledge, so you need to remember all the maps. You also need to know what operators are good for roaming and what operators aren't. Now, don't get me wrong, you could roam with anyone you want to, but there's operators that are much better at the job. Now, you might be thinking you should play Cav or Visual, but those operators are more for sneaking around the map. You actually want to bring operators like Legion, Velk, Alibi, or even Mute on the roam. This is because they have utility that you can not only use on the site, but you could use on the roam as well. This way, you're able to help people on site and help yourself too. Like, for example, if you're playing Legion, you could put a few mines down on site and then keep the rest of your mines to help you on the roam. It also helps if you bring a shotgun on the roam as well, because then you're able to create vertical holes, head holes, feet holes, rotates, and break hatches. This helps to not only give you an advantage, but will create a lot of ghost pressure as well. Ghost pressure is using things like holes, broken hatches, and even barricades to scare the enemies, which forces them to drone the whole area or go somewhere else. For example, if you create vertical holes above a doorway, now the enemy will be scared that someone is playing next to those vertical holes if they notice them. This forces them to have to either get into the building from somewhere else or drone the entire floor above them to see if someone is up there. That's pretty much the basics of roaming in Rainbow Six Siege. If there's any other tips I can give, it's to make sure you barricade doors behind you that you're not going to use. This will help you to not get flanked by the enemies because they would have to destroy the barricade to get to you or go the other way. Another tip would be to always apply pressure to the enemy team. This just means you should always be making the enemy feel uncomfortable by your presence. To do this, you do things that I talked about before, such as creating vertical holes, head holes, feet holes, etc. You could also put a lot of pressure on the enemies by putting a lot of traps down, because then that's another thing that they'd have to worry about. Finally, the last tip I could give is to always make sure to return to the bomb site once you're finished roaming. Now, how do you know when you should stop roaming and return back to the site? Well, the best way to know is when you've overstayed your welcome. This could be when the enemies have gained too much control over the area you're roaming in, and now you have to leave or you might die. But in the process, you've wasted a lot of their time. Or you've got a kill or two, and now it's time to leave because you've successfully done your job and you don't want to get hunted down by the remaining enemies. Regardless of what it comes down to, make sure you get back to the site. You want to try your hardest not to die on the roam, because then you'll give the enemies the man advantage, and it's one less person to help protect the site in the final minute. In conclusion, the best way to roam in Rainbow Six Siege is by being a disturbance and showing a lot of presence within the area you're roaming in. Don't be that person who just sneaks around the map looking for kills. Instead, find key points on the map that people would typically want to gain control of and deny them of that control. To do this, you want to create a lot of pressure by using holes, traps, intel, and barricades to your advantage. But just make sure you always return to the site after you're done roaming. To know you're done roaming, you've either successfully got a kill or two or successfully wasted enough time, and you need to leave the area you're in before the enemies gain too much control of it and kill you. That's all the advice I have to successfully roam in Rainbow Six Siege. So hopefully now you know how to roam the right way. That's it for me though. What are some tips you have to be a good roamer in Rainbow Six Siege? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like. And if you want more content like this, then subscribe. Have a great day, everyone.